go ahead.
More on the beat.
Biafra, 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 in the vodka, Biafra, over the Biafra, listen, I can see my people in Biafra. I can see my people in rivers. I also see my people in Delta, Cross River and Akwa Ibom. Even in the state, I can see my people in Enugu. I can see my people in Anambra. I also see my people in Ebonyi. And Abia, Igala and Idoma, Biafra, 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 Biafra.
What Justice and Yagoze has said, and Tunde, I'm going to start with you to get your view on this. It looks clear that at least as far as Yagoze and Justice are concerned, there is no other option but complete independence or secession. So I'm going to start with you, Tunde. If we proceed on that assumption, so we're not going to discuss whether that is the option or the only option, or there's no point. So moving on, and because of time, what sort of mandate do you think that anybody or any group who intends or who wants to secede from a country, what sort of mandate do they need for? Because again, we're thinking of what would make that group a valid group, that other people should then actually listen to them. What do you think?
I asked the question earlier, where is Biafra? To start with, I think a lot of the other parts of the country need to understand clearly the region called Biafra. It's very important. We should not just assume that everybody in the country knows, the region called Biafra. Okay. If you have that assumption that I know or everybody knows, then there will be a problem.
So for you,
the first thing is to know where. And the reason why I'm raising that key element is, for most countries that would go out of an entity, there would be borders, there would be boundaries. And on record, and this is on record, unfortunately, from academic research, in the archives, there were records of minority ethnic groups in the South and in the Southeast, because it's not a completely Igbo stretch, who complained that under Biafra occupation, they were maltreated. And I'm going to say this, that as much as possible in 2016, we want to go down to units. My question will be, when you create that map, if you run a referendum, the small minority ethnic groups that will be caught with you, or will be caught in that place, will become another set of minorities. And it is a very vicious that the hunter becomes the hunted. And I want to go back to what Yaguza said, because it's quite important, that as much as I blame the British, I lay a lot of blame on the Nigerian state itself. This is the whole idea of when people talk about slave trade and reparation. Nobody talks about our grandfathers who collected mirrors, sold us out. True. Nobody talks about them. So that's what I was going to ask you, that please tell us where the region would be. How would the Ijo, Ishekiri, Urobo, all of them, where are they going? Is there going to be a referendum? Or is there going to be an agreement? Because all these will then become instruments of
Hold on.
that is what the Nigerian state will ask. And we must be careful to remain within the instruments of international justice if you become a state.
Okay, thank you very much. I can. What do you
Right. Well, I know that there are people who are much older than me here, but I don't know many cases of secession where it's debated amicably and then everybody just go. These things tend to lead to conflict and struggle. We must be ready for that if that is the way we want to go, because that is going to happen. Secondly, I think it's good to give information. I don't really understand. I don't think many people understand the plight of the Igbos as we are explaining it here today. The kind of thing that my brother there was explaining, the things that he suffered, you know. I was a young boy in 1966, 67, and so on, and I was living in Lagos. I heard stories of what was happening and so on, but I wouldn't be able to experience what you experienced. And I think it's good for people to know, for a kind of understand, a kind of information, so that people know the reason why this is the case, and if it is possible, I don't know whether it is. If it is possible to go through a kind of a negotiation method. Otherwise, it's going to be conflict. And when that conflict happens, are we ready? You're ready to send your sons and daughters to go and fight? Now, those are the real issues. Thank you.
Okay, great.
Can I address
Yeah,
to the racial? Okay.
Can you please address the point about we're not? So remember what my question says. So can you just address my question on this whole concept of agreed that yes, what you want is secession. So can you address the point about mandate, please?
This mandate, what we're discussing here now is which is the issue of mandate or not. This has always been a very first answer from the very first time when our people was cut off all the way down to what was now called Southern Cameroon. You remember, it is called UDI. If I don't know how many of us remember what the meaning of UDI, Unilateral Declaration of Independence, which means the people gave the mandate, but you could never declare Biafra. It was the elders, which is the Supreme Council of the Elders at the time, who had mandated him to declare an independent sovereign state. Matter of fact, I keep hearing the word secession. It is absolutely wrong for people here to keep using the word secession without understanding what it means in the very first place. What? Biafra is not seceding. Biafra is restoring her sovereignty. Biafra was a declaration. They declared an independent sovereign state. And Nigeria invaded a sovereign state. War crime. Nigeria invaded a sovereign state. First is Biafra. Was Biafra created in 1967 or 1960? As most people were quoting. I've heard people say 60. Actually, Biafra was declared a sovereign state. Only declared a sovereign state 67, May 30th. Right? Now, the issue is, when people speak of Biafra being an independent state, Biafra was an ancient kingdom who was a federated unit, and he happens to be one of the federating units of that very kingdom. And we all understand about our kingdom. We all understand about Biafra. I have my brothers who are currently today called Bakassi. You remember the Bakassi of Nigeria? You remember the Bakassi of Cameroon? You remember the Southern Cameroon? But yet, one thing I really applaud this brother from, he's doing a great thing, which I've always known the Yorubas to do in terms of the media, managing the entire story, take the story around, twist it around. The question has always been, who led the Igbo to war? Rather than who invaded the Biafra? Because when you pose the question inside to the people, who invaded the sovereign nation, it becomes like a word of a crime. Oh, I actually invaded the nation. But they say, who led the Igbo to war?
Okay.
No, this you see the concept, the idea. So when people try to reposition a question in order to suit their own page, their direction, it makes the victim look like also the so-called persecutors.
Okay, Great, thank you very much. Justice, please, do you want to address the same question?
Batunde, I thank you for your concerns. First of all, you said if you are to have Biafra, which existed before, which was mandated to Ojukwu to declare, please remember the reason Ojukwu declared it. Okay, that is really very important. Ojukwu was governing the eastern part of Nigeria at the time. Okay, he was governing it. He went so far to Aburi to discuss how they should live together. Yeah? And the reason for that was there was no place in Nigeria where the Igbo or the Easterners could sit on the table and discuss what to do after the genocide. Yes, that was meted to them. Okay. Now, they came up with some ideas about how to forge together and move forward. But that was reneged, jettisoned. So you have an eastern part of Nigeria at the map at the time, yes? And that map at the time was therefore used as a focus for saying, since the rest of Nigeria have not agreed with the plans we made or the agreement of Aburi, therefore this geographical area, for the interest of protecting the lives of those who inhabit it, therefore going to be declared a sovereign state of Biafra. But listen, they left out some people on the other side of the Niger. They were in Asaba, yes? So, having left them out, they spoke Igbo, by the way, okay? So now, if they speak Igbo and on the other side of the Niger, Nigeria came, the military, during the war and massacred them. Soyinka himself said, these people are the most vulnerable of Nigeria. They were murdered. Look at the YouTube about the river on the Niger. Right, so the new Biafra map has to incorporate those who are willing by referendum to join. Do you understand? Who are willing. Now, remember, the meted out pain that was done to the so-called minorities was worse than Biafrans, okay? I'm sorry. I'm going to stop there.
Thank
so
you
there's
very,
a lot
very
to
much.
discuss.
So I'm just going to, if you notice, we have more men, no females, on the panel. That is thanks to Chioma, the organizers. And we're now going to, we've invited commentators onto the panel. I'm going to give them, each of them, 3 minutes to just sort of pick something from what, remember what the panelists have tried to do is open up the issues and give us some more information to help us with our discussion. So it's possible for us to stay here all through the night, but we're not going to do that. And so each of our contributors will just pick something out of all that they've heard or what they have prepared. And I'm going to time you maximum 3 minutes. Just sort of say something, and then we'll open it up for discussion. So I'm going to start with you, please.
Good evening.
With Charles.
Good evening, gentlemen and ladies. My name is Charles Diro, Comrade Charles Diro, and academic world, I'm a doctor architect. I'm director of the Voice of Biafra. I'm a German Biafran. It's a pity I come late. This is just one of the.
Well, don't worry about that. You have 3 minutes.
One of the.
And you've already spent.
The UN document. I titled my little thing I prepared eyewitness, being the matter that I was in Biafra during the Nigerian Biafran War. The United Nations main document says all peoples have the right of self-determination. by virtue of that right, they freely determine their political status and freely pursue their economic, social, and cultural development. Hence, our struggle for independence of Biafran land. The Nigerian genocide against the Easterners was launched on 6 July 1967. The extermination of Easterners in the northern Nigeria could only be compared to the German exercise of exterminating the Jews. Our people ran back to East, he said so. The Nigerians said it was cowardness that made us to run away. Gowan and his group decided that they would exterminate my people and then send their army to carry the war into our homes. Our fathers and grandfathers were the ones who could proclaim Biafra, as he rightly said. Because you cannot create an army called Eastern Region, while the other side calls itself Nigerian Army. The Easterners were forced to leave the north, western Nigeria, empty-handed, not minding their properties, millions of pounds left in Nigerian banks. Would I forget the millions of civilians murdered by the Nigerian Army, including women and children? When I watched these Syrian refugees crossing the west, I remember my personal experience in Biafra war. I remember how the enemy's fighters and bombers pursued us as we went to stream to fetch water for our families. I remember how those fighters shot out at us in many occasions, killing many of my friends, killing 8, 9, 10 years old children. I remember the Asaba massacre led by the dog of war, General Murtala Muhammad, how they came and picked kids and told them they were going to kill them. I must say, they were honest to them, because they brought them to their village square and shot them one by one on the back. I remember taking days and nights with barefoot to cross from Biafra 1 to Biafra 2, and with empty stomach. I remember they said, if bullet cannot kill them, let hunger kill them. Hence, Biafra was blocked from air and sea. And after the war, General Gowan and his dog of war declared the so-called no victory, no vanquish. Still, they gave every Biafran that had a bank account in Nigeria before the war the sum of £20 to start life. The sum of £20 to start life, including those who left millions of pounds in Nigerian banks. How wicked could that be? Gowan set up the so-called 3 R's, reconciliation, rehabilitation, and reconstruction, but nothing was put in ground in the completely destroyed Biafra land. The federal government, rather than investing in eastern Nigeria, went to build national stadium, national theater, and the rest in Lagos. Our people started from zero, but because we are blessed people, we rose to the task of working our way up. And within 10 years, our villages, towns were developed much more than villages, towns in the north. When US and allies destroyed Germany during the Second World War, they set up a Marshall Plan, which was instrumental to German development. The present federal government of General Buhari has set up a Marshall Plan to construct the Northeast, which was destroyed by Boko Haram. Was it done in Biafra? No. It did not, because that is a place. And present Southeast and Southwest. In conclusion, I quote the United Nations, the U.S. Constitutional Attorney, Bruce Fenn, said it, the case for Biafra is stronger than South Sudan and Kosovo. The popular Bishop Kuku advised General Buhari to dialogue with the leader of IPOB, the Mandela of Biafra, Comrade Nnamdi Kanu, rather than locking him up illegally. The acknowledged writer and author of The Man died, Professor Wole rightly summed it up. I quote, "You can keep Biafrans, but you cannot keep Biafra." Elder General Achuzia, 85 years old, who was Biafran general, said, "In my lifetime, Biafra will come. I repeat, Biafra will come. Aluta continue. The victory is the struggle. And our Biafra is alive. Long live the land of rising sun. May God bless Biafra. Biafra can never die, as it is in our father's blood. It is in our blood and in my children and children's blood. Thank you very much.
Okay, okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, so good evening, everybody.
No comments, no speech, just 3 minutes. And
Yes.
just, deal with the issues, some of the issues. The testimony was very helpful, but, deal with some of the issues we've raised.
Thank you very much. I intend to, and I also apologize because I intend to be very blunt. So just to start, I would like to pay respect to all the people who died during the war, those who are Igbo and those who are not. And many people died, and we know that war is not a pleasant thing. And I'm very worried as a young person who was not present during that war, that we are talking in a manner that could lead to war again. And if you know the tragedy of war, you will be very careful what you say, especially in a country that is currently experiencing conflict in different parts where thousands of people have already been killed. I don't want anyone to be killed. Now, I have to be very clear with you. As far as Biafra, as Ojukwu is concerned, he had his reasons, the people had their reasons, and perhaps in many ways it was a noble cause. What I will ask you to do as we talk today is to separate that Biafra from this particular movement that we are having at this particular time in history. And as far as I am concerned, for all intents and purposes, that is not an independence movement. One of the things that we've heard today, there's a lot of anger, a lot of emotion. When you engage with anger and emotion, you don't engage your brain. And more often than not, you just build on anger, and anger feeds itself. And it is very, very dangerous. We as a people, as Nigerians, we have to be clear that many countries are brought together in different ways, and they struggle together to build for life, not for death. What I've heard today, there's a lot of ethnic bigotry, there's a lot of religious, emotional, religious hatred coming through. What I haven't heard, as you would normally hear in noble independent causes, is a very clear vision. This is what we are looking for. This is what we want to build. It seems to me, because it's only not too long ago, we had Goodluck Jonathan as president of Nigeria. Where was this movement at that stage? It was nowhere to be found. I am very concerned that this seems to be a politically motivated, politically driven agenda. And it is problematic for our country. That is also the origin of the Boko Haram movement. Also, if there was a vision set out, the question was asked, is independence the only way to address the grievances that we have? My answer is absolutely not. There are many different ways in which we can address the problems that face Nigeria today, and we should be doing that together rather than separately. There are serious challenges facing the country. I am an Urhobo man from Delta State, Nigeria. If you look at the map of Biafra, Urhobo is right there on the map. We have never signed up to any agenda around independence. And as far as I know, all of the other ethnic nationalities within the Biafra map have openly rejected this movement. In fact, even the Igbo people themselves, because this seems to be an activist agenda, I don't see a mandate emerging from the Igbo people themselves, from all of their representatives in government today. Whether you dismiss them or you don't dismiss them, they are Igbo people, and they are there in huge numbers, from local government to the houses of assembly, to House of Rep, to House of Senate. They are all there. Let us build together as one Nigeria and
Thank
stop
you
this
very much, Darryl. Thank you. Okay, so we will move on to... Do you want us to carry on, or do you want us to stop? Now, 3 minutes.
Yes, like I mentioned earlier when I started, I'm a security strategist, a former civil servant, and I'm a bit worried. I think my worry is from the fact that I see a lot of emotion, and emotion do not achieve anything.
I'm saying this because the narrative is very, very wrong. The narrative is wrong because there is no strategic plan around it. When people go around saying things they want to achieve, but they say it in a way that causes offense or doesn't achieve anything, then we have a problem. My brother mentioned earlier that we're using the wrong words to describe, the movement or the desired vision of the people of Biafra. But the issue is, what have we done from a strategic perspective to make people understand what the real narrative is? What is it that we want? If we don't want to be part of Nigeria, or if we don't want to be part of Nigeria, some people don't want to be part of Nigeria, how have you communicated that without it being seen as aggressive? I'm not really happy when I watch the TV and I see people being arrested for demonstrating. They have no guns on them, and I see that a lot of them were killed. I'm not happy. As a Nigerian living here, I'm not happy. And when I see people being paraded by the police and they're bare naked, what for? Who is fighting for them? Every Nigerian should stand up and say what the police are doing is wrong. From that perspective. So you should understand that many people are not happy with the way this is going. But some of the leaders of the new reformed Biafra are not doing themselves any good favors. And I'm saying this because they are not narrating the story properly for other people to join them. We are all here. We heard about the Scottish approach to dealing with this issue. We know what they did in the past in terms of carrying arms against the English. But they decided to move away from that approach. We are now in the 21st century where we should use different approach. When you are going into warfare, you don't go into warfare the way you are going about it. And I think, my brothers, if you want independence, I think we should have that debate. And I'm happy that we're having that debate here because it's an academic environment where we could have that debate and discuss it. And then you go back to your drawing board and look at the strategy in terms of how do you convey this information. The narrative, as far as I'm concerned, is what are the drivers for the Biafrans? Is it, will we resolve it? Can the Nigerian state resolve it? If the Nigerian state can't resolve it, can we then come to the table and look at an exit strategy? I think that is the way we should discuss it, in a matured way. And I think some of the things I've had today gets me really scared because we are not actually coming up with a proper strategy on how we should do it.
Okay, thank you very, very much. Now you can all clap for our panelists. Before I open this up to Q&A, can I thank the panelists for being very calm under loads of bursting to jump and shout and say something. I have been very impressed, and I thank you very, very much for accommodating me and for ensuring that you were able to sort of put across to our audience some of the things that you wanted to say. So now we're going to take questions. If you want to make a comment, your comment cannot last more than 1 minute. That's if it's really long. Preferably, it's going, just keep it very short. Please do not tell us the story of how you personally suffered or your family suffered during the Biafran, the Nigerian Civil War. Let's keep that aside because that is really not the purpose of this evening's event. So if you have, can one person hand over stand here and one person stand there with the microphone and then so that we can save time.
So I have the first question.
No, you can't have it. Okay, so I would prefer to start with the ladies because we've had a panel of men. And then with your permission, I hope that is okay because because this is Igbo and the men are very important.
Exactly.
Yes. So very briefly, question. Yeah.
Okay, so my brief question is actually appreciative of the last two comments we just had, because as an Igbo person to myself, my name is Oriental, you're going to say, so yes, I'm very good. But I would like to ask, how are we always looking back to the history, yet as a modern Igbo person today, I have lots of friends from different tribes, from different religions as well, and I feel like rather than looking back to the history and to the systematic abuse that we suffered and the Civil War, we have to look more at what's going on today in the sense that, is the issue not rather that it's ethnicity linked to socioeconomic gain? And so then shouldn't we really be addressing that rather than addressing passionate arguments about secessionism? Because look at countries like, even look at how we address
Just
Germany.
examples, that's fine, we get the question. There's another lady here. So we're going to take a batch of questions, then the panel will try to deal with that, then we'll come back for a second batch. Okay? Yes.
Thank you to all the speakers. One of my main issues was around the emotional piece, because I feel like we shouldn't undermine what emotion has to play in this, because it's very emotional for a lot of people, and it's important that we don't undermine that. But again, I think for young diasporas, it's important for us to understand what the issue is in a, not necessarily in a less historical sense, but for us it's not as real as it is for members of the older generation. So when Tunde spoke of the socio-economic piece, I think that probably resonated with us the most. Poverty is a massive issue and there's clear links. So how can we kind of make it relevant to what is going on now? Like even in the UK, Scotland, Ireland, Wales, but even just the north and the west of England, there's a poverty and a socio-economic connotation that we're not really addressing as much as the kind of historical side. So could we speak more about that?
Thank you. Is there any other lady in the group that wants to say something? Yes, there's one here. Hello. Okay, start with her and then we'll come to you. Yes.
Okay, I just two really quick points. First,
Longer than
I
very
would
short.
state that, I think that there's a lot of idealism attached to what you think Biafra is. There's a lot of nostalgia based on, because I don't think you were born during the period when the Biafra War was taking place, and there's a lot of false nostalgia based on what you think Biafra should be like. And secondly, I think at the far end, the second to last comment raised about the other ethnic minorities within the southeastern region. What are we going to do about those people? Because Igbo is not the only ethnic group within the southeast and within the southern area as a whole. And there's a lot of false amalgamation.
Thank you very much. Yes, and then I come to the men who are Boston. Yes.
Okay, when we talked about the strategy, and that's what I'm kind of looking at, because if you want Biafra to be like within the city, the state, and someone asks which states are they, I'm asking the same question. I know Anambra, Enugu, but all the people in Anambra, Enugu, Abakaliki, are they all behind you with what you're saying? So the strategy I'm talking about here is the Igbos that live Lagos, Abuja, all different places that have actually developed themselves in that state. What do you expect them to do? And also knowing that a lot of people do not really understand the fight of this Biafran stuff. I'm Igbo, typical Igbo, but yet this Biafra, I know Ojukwu did what he did and everything. Is this still the same fight?
Great, thank you. Can I just remind, can we, do you want us to take a few more?
No, I'll tell them one few more.
A few more. It's just rotation. Yes, the man.
Thank you very much. I'm going to say that, first of all, I think it's good we separate the issue of the war that happened in 1967 from the Biafran agitation now. Also, do we think that Biafra, the movement now, is a sign of a failed Nigerian state?
Okay.
Also, just lastly, the fact that over the years, the Nigerian state has had the opportunity to have a national discourse, but the issue of one Nigeria or the breakup of Nigeria is always removed from the agenda. Do you think that's an issue? And just lastly, within the Biafran states now, the states we have in Nigeria, how much have the people, you didn't mention that the leaders there are imposed, how much have they protested against those leaders in terms of their corruption and so forth?
Great, thank you. Let's come to this side. Can we take the guy?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ukwan Obase. I'm, should I say, a new believer in the Biafran movement. I used to be a firm believer in the Nigerian project until very recently, actually, when I saw that the present crop of leadership, and I mean precisely our president, doesn't care about the people who, my own brothers. You know, when the president can watch citizens being murdered and it doesn't bother him, that's...
Sorry, do you have a question?
Yes, my question is very simple. My very simple question, madam. If we were to have a referendum in Nigeria with people in the area that we say is Biafra, and those of you who believe in one Nigeria were in the campaign, as it were, what would be the selling point? What is it that would make someone like me want to stay in Nigeria?
Okay, perfect. Okay, so what I have done is I've asked the panelists, we're not going to take, this question, that question, so they will just sort of group things and answer, if that's just so that we can have another round of questions. Okay, so you all have 1 minute each to say something.
Should I take the emotion thing? Emotion is part of human experience. I'm sorry to have to come back to it. Yesterday, I was in where I work, a patient walked in. He was limping. As a surgeon, I was asking him, how come you're limping? He says he fell in his garden because he was busy thinking about his wife who has recently died. I said, I'm very sorry about your wife. He said, he went on to say to me, my wife's such a wonderful lady. Do you know she adopted 2 black babies? I said, oh. She's white. This person is a Cyprian. Yeah, a white Greek Cyprian. Married to an Irish woman. She said, my wife's a wonderful lady. She adopted 2 black babies. I said, okay. She said, these black babies are Biafrans. I said, Biafran babies? So you went to Biafra? You know what I was about to say? He said, no, this happened in Bristol. They went to Bristol and found some babies who were from Biafra. On their label, on their legs, there was their names written on their names. So the wife was moved to pick up this little baby and adopted the baby. There were 2 of them. To feed the child, they have to use syringe. This is a child who was about to die. They have kwashiorkor. Kwashiorkor is a form of malnutrition.
Your 1 minute is up, actually.
Okay, it's a form of malnutrition. So say to them, the reason I'm mentioning it is because there's a lot of emotion surrounding Biafra. The whole world was emotive about it. You turned your television on, you had emotion. People were dying in their millions. That is why we're talking about it. She said these children, they brought them up, and 2 of them, both of them, were now doctors. So they have got an experience, and that experience is worth discussing. There were Biafran babies brought into this country in Bristol who were nursed by white people, and their own country rejected them. That is why it's emotional.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
1 minute. Yeah, 1 minute. I'll tell you first, before the question gets lost, the gentleman over there talked about South, and Southeast. I don't know, a lot of you here are scholars, professors, doctors in here. I don't know, if you got a wristwatch or a mobile phone with a compass on it, I need someone to be able to show me where you have South on that very compass. That's a scholarly debating material that you need to clear to the people. And to the lady over there who also talked about being nostalgia and then also the issue of emotion. Can I ask you, do you understand that I'm speaking of 3.5 million people slaughtered? I see no reason why listen very careful. I see no reason we should feed our enemies. for them to get stronger, harder to fight us harder. Should I fight everything you see that moves, including the leaves, as long as it's an Igbo, Benjamin Adekunle, the previous one by Awolowo. And you're talking 67, it was just around the corner. Right? In the present time, Igbo were threatened. Just on the 4th, made it a year. Now the Oba of Lagos said he was going to drown Igbo. And you think I'm going to sit here and have a laugh with you?
Okay, great. Thank you. Charles, do you want to say something? Please just calm down. Let's try and get answers so we can take some more questions. Charles, please.
I'm addressing the issue raised by the brother here who said, people agree and say we want to have an independent state. What about the rest of the people in the country who will, maybe take part in the referendum? How will they support? I think if you have heard about war and you hear rumors of war, you hear news about war, that is happening everywhere now. And the testimonies that we hear from people who actually had the experience. The last thing you want again is something that leads to war. So I will think that a strategy that leads to an exit, if that is the only way out, is a better thing to, The issue of emotion, it's going to be emotional. If you have members of the family or you are wounded and so on, it's an emotional issue. But that emotion should not override the reasoning of a clear goal of where we're going and how we get there, so that we don't end up in a situation where the natural resources that we want to use to build our nation, or the nation that comes out of the existing one, and the entire political environment and so on, becomes something that is sucked again by those who will be supplying you arms and so on to bomb yourself and kill yourself. Because we don't make those things, and we know that all over the world, when you declare war, they will supply you those things in abundance.
Okay. Today.
1 minute. Okay, I hear this, the enemies. Who are the enemies? Is it my generation? Because, you're not an enemy. Just accept it. You are not my enemy.
Listen, you king had made me an enemy and said he was going to drown me.
See, we need to get this thing across. We are not enemies. You're not going to build a new generation of Igbos that sees me as enemies. I cannot afford to see you as enemies. It's not going to help to build a nation. We need to agree and look at the way forward. On the issue of secession, which has been raised, or whether we should stay
restoration.
Again, this is part of it. You would not force your words unto me. I accept the use of your words. You would not force yours on me. That's how we build a nation. Now, going forward with the idea of secession, see, it's a 50-50 thing. You will never, in most wars or anything, get everything you want. You either get 50, 60, 70. My proposition to Biafra is ask for devolution of power. Ask for confederation. Let's take power away from the center. It's going to start gradually, but within the present political system.
Out there. So, can I ask you to address something else?
I will.
Not emotion, not anything that has been addressed.
Just two things then. Firstly, I'd just like to really appreciate the young people.
Can we please just listen, please?
To appreciate the young people, because clearly there's a new and a different vision emerging from them, as you can hear. There are just a quick thing to address. One of them is this issue about Nigeria as a failed state. I agree 100%. Nigeria is approaching a failed state. I myself am part of an organization called Liberate, Delta People's Movement, which we set up to fight our state governor. And we harassed him in his last 2 years in office. The person who's currently there, we are harassing him to force them, the politicians, to do the right thing. That's the problem we see across Nigeria. Our politicians are not doing the right thing. And we, the people, need to fight that together, rather than allow politicians again to use emotions to manipulate us, to send our young peoples onto the street to die.
Yes.
Yes.
1 minute.
Yeah, 1 minute. I had a rare occasion of traveling from London to a part of Nigeria called Ife, and I got caught up in a conflict there, and I was shaking. I was under my bed, just praying, just let me get out of here. When you see war, when you're part of war, you will not want war. And I agree that Nigeria is a failed state, partially because a lot of things are wrong with the way it is structured. From a political perspective, in fact, you could call it a zoo, because they're not allowing people to have an opportunity to express their views. But we must express our views in a democratic approach. We must adopt a democratic means of putting our messages forward. And I think if you feel, in 30 seconds, if you feel that you have a legitimate reason why you should take this approach forward, and I've seen a number of people that agree with your assertion, then politically look at how to get people out and get the people that you want in, and then fight for your right in a democratic way. That is the way to go.
Okay, so we've had various suggestions. So I'm just going to give you numbers. Please just ask questions if you have. So you're number 1. Then the guy behind, so we can just sort of spread, and then we'll go over them. Yes.
Hello. Thank you very much. Mine is.
Well, these are the last round of questions. It's almost 9 o'clock.
Yeah, mine is a comment. My name is Dr. Chukwubegan, a co-founder
Please
of
make
Radio.
that comment maximum 1 minute.
Yes, a co-founder of Radio Biafra London. One thing we should understand about some of the panelists have talked about the dialogue and so on and so forth. But in Nigerian state, they have shut out that opportunity for dialogue. In my territory, in Biafra territory, we cannot openly meet like this. We cannot openly campaign. We cannot openly express ourselves what we want. Our territory is 100% militarized. Within 1 kilometer, you will have up to 10 roadblocks. Now, there is economic and legal foundation that is put in place to put Eastern Territory down. And unless and until those barriers are lifted and level playing field created, there will be no room for dialogue, and there will be opportunity for people to go through the violence maze, which we are not want, which we don't want.
Okay.
The current level of Biafra agitators do not want violence to restore Biafra. Thank you.
Okay. Let's go to the back, and then.
Now, excuse me.
Hello. So my comment is going to be very brief. Just very brief. Biafra is not about poverty. The Igbos are not the poorest in Nigeria. We have to make that clear, because people start talking about socio-economic and a load of that sort of talk. We are not the poorest in Nigeria, but we have the right to self-determination. That is when Nigeria wanted independence from. Auntie, you said 1 minute. When Nigeria wanted independence from Britain, Britain had every right to say, can you govern yourself? Can you people live together? What will Nigeria look like? Is it not better if we rule you? But Nigerians said we must have Nigeria. So if Biafrans said we must have Biafra, who is anybody in that panel to stand before me and say, oh, but why should you not go for this and why should you not go for that? If we say we want Biafra, my brother, we want Biafra.
Please, I want to stick with facts. Auntie, I've got the microphone, please. I've had it before.
Yes, please. Can I just say my name is not Auntie.
Good day, Christian. Wow. I want to stick with facts, please. Especially from, there's been a lot of falsehood coming from your panel. Let us stick with facts, okay? One fact is the foundation of that contraption was laid on falsehood. And if you don't correct it, you can patch it for all, how many years you like, it will not stand.
Okay.
Secondly, our plan and strategy. You're being wrong when you say you are not hearing strategy, because this is not the environment to discuss the strategy. There is a clear strategy for the struggle. And when the time comes, or if we come to the appropriate forum, you will hear the clear strategy. And I tell you one thing, one of the strategies that is in the Biafran Charter is that because Nigeria is not practicing true federalism, you agree with me, the federating states, local resource allocation, why has the federal government continued to operate on a central level? And you are talking about our politicians, you forget about the endemic corruption, the criminals that you are calling politicians. Look at the Imo State. The person that calls himself a governor, do you call that one a governor? You don't. Now, the strategy I'm telling you about is in a Biafran state, there is this emerging strategy of all the ethnic groups that make that state up to be able to control their resources. There will be a true federalism, and they control their resources, and that is being worked on. And finally, now you cannot engage with a despot. Currently, Nigeria is being led by a despot. Muhammadu Buhari. He took over power by the plan of the gun in 1982.
Are you happy for me to say okay?
Yeah.
So I want somebody else to say something.
Sorry, my question. Wait.
Do you want to give the microphone to somebody else?
Mine is not question. It's a comment.
Okay. Can I just ask, is there anybody who has a question?
Yes.
Not a comment. Okay.
Mine is a question.
Can you give the mic to the guy who has a question? And then we'll come to comments. Question.
Thank you. My question goes to you, yes. Yes, sorry, I didn't know Babatunde, yes. Yes, as me and you knows that Nigeria was created by Britain. And you are saying, remember, I'm a Biafran person, and have a lot of people from the north. So you know that Nigeria has inspired. So my question to you is that why is there a problem for you people to be on your own? As we want to be our own, that's what is the problem for you.
Excuse me, please. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you. One house, please. One house, please.
Questions. Yes, last question.
Ask a question, please. My name is Oluwafemi Obina. My dad was a Yoruba man, and my mom happens to be an Igbo woman from Imo State. My question goes to Mr. Yakoze. If an independence seems to be created, where is going to be the capital? I will tell you why I'm asking this question, guys. I will tell you why I'm asking this question. You are all calling for Biafra State. Fine. Mr. Yakoze, I want to ask you another question. Where is the weapon going to come from? The third question I'm going to ask is this. Which of the Western country is going to support Biafra? Thank you.
Do you have a question? No comment. If you don't have a question, question.
Yes.
Okay, just give me the question. What is, I don't need a background. What is the question?
Okay, the question is explain autonomous societies, because that's what Biafra will come back to.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, fine. So what we're going to do now is, does anybody want to, I'm not going to ask everybody to say something because there's really no point. Yagoze, do you want to say something in 30 seconds?
The only thing I'll say in 30 seconds, I recommend the book for you. That book is called Animal Farm. You need to check it out. It's my brothers over there who rightly said, this is not the platform for us to tell you what our strategy is. And the other thing is, as a people, you don't murder a people and expect those people, or you expect them to come babysit you, or cried in the term that you would define. For me to tell you this, I don't actually have the right to sit on the same platform with you because your ancestors murdered my people.
So Justice will say something for 30 seconds.
Okay. Autonomous society is when individuals come together and say, we want to do something and there's nothing on this planet anyone can do about it. That's the first thing to say. Nigeria has been deluding itself. You're in a Lugadian cage. In that cage, you need to just open the gate, find the key, and let the ethnic people out to give their own endogenous potential for the planet. Everybody has a right to be alive. Okay. Nigeria is killing its own.
Thank you very much.
Let the people go free.
Okay,
let them talk.
Thank you. Chaps.
One or two things. Someone asked a question about that this is a political motivated movement. No. In the 90s, back to the 80s, even when I was in Germany then, there was something called Masop, the movement of Biafra. It's been always there. The movement of Biafra is not new, and it's not even against Buhari. It's been there for years. But the problem is that the man on top has seen the Biafran people as an enemy. This is why it looked like. It is not.
Okay.
Some of us, sorry, one second. The person that wears the shoe that knows where it pinches. You cannot force people in a relationship. You can't force people in a marriage. They have tried. We have tried for 100 years. It's not working out.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Finish.
Akin.
I just want to quickly say that the idea that the Oba of Lagos said something, and I will be insulted here because of what Oba of Lagos said, is irritating to me. Because I didn't say that, and I don't accede to what he said. So we need to really be measured because we don't really know all our connections. Somebody just put up there a combination of this and that. Many of us have our linkages there. We're not just Yoruba, Igbo, or whatever.
Okay.
So we are humans, first of all, and let's address ourselves. If the Oba of Lagos says something, let's face him and deal with it.
Okay.
I think a quick response to whether people want to go or people want to stay. Again, sir, you quoted the UN Charter. Sir, on UN rights to aspire. Again, all those declarations, instruments you're quoting, have international processes for secession. Have you followed any of it? Thank you.
Can you please listen? Okay. Yes. The last one.
Okay. Thank you.
It's on.
Okay. Just to say, as a closing statement, even if Biafra becomes independent, you must remember we are neighbors.
Yes.
We are brothers and sisters. So let us stop the fight. War is
Thank you very much.
The house rules still apply. If you want to leave, please leave. But do not make me throw everybody out because of you. So if you want to leave, please leave. But please be calm. Okay? Yes.
Well, I'm a student of politics, and I've seen a lot of things, and there are a lot of comparative analysis out there. If you want to really win this fight, this fight, you need to do it properly. And I see a lot of emotion, and there's nothing wrong with emotion, but we have to be more matured in the way, because there's no murderer on this panel, and I have no problem with my Igbo brothers. I love them. And so you need to understand that some of us will even join you if your statement and your strategy is right. And that's why you need to just do it properly.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. And so I'm going to pull this together. So what we have discussed this evening is we have tried to figure out, when we talk about Biafra, who constitutes Biafra, to try to locate Biafra within Nigeria or outside of Nigeria. We have tried to understand the role of the Igbos and understand their humanity within the world and within the Nigerian space. We have tried to raise concerns with the Igbo elite and the Igbo politicians in the current space, political space. We have tried to engage with what the core values of a people are in trying to understand whether Nigeria as a nation fulfills the requirements of nationhood. We have in the process raised various concerns. We have also tried to engage with the question of the sovereignty of Biafra. And then we have had some very interesting suggestions from the panel. And I think that for those of you who are very much engaged with this question, you may want to start asking certain questions. So we talked about referendum. Do you want to start with those communities, those nationalities, those kingdoms, those states, whatever choice of word you prefer? Do you want to start with the so-called people that you think you're representing to find out what they want? Would your own regime be different from the current Nigerian state? I'm just throwing things out there for you to think about, things that have come up from the discussion today. Can you better provide information about what it is that drives you, where it is that you're headed, and how you propose to get there? Because one of the things that has come through this evening, especially for our younger diasporans, is the need to understand what it is and why it is this is so important. And if we need to listen to them, because part of the problem we have in Nigeria is we complain about leaders who are not listening to the led. And so the Biafran state, or the Biafran whatever it becomes, does not want to replicate Nigeria, does not want to build a society where the minority will feel oppressed. And so that they do not, clearly that is not what you, those of you in this room, that's not what you want. The other thing that is come out strongly this evening is a strong aversion to war and to the cries of war. So when I was asked to moderate this event, I kept asking myself, what do I want you to live with? And again, I said that I'm only going to give you facts that are in the public domain, as somebody had said. And I do agree with you that when you sort of discuss from an emotive standpoint, you lose sight of facts. And then you can make claims. And you can, remember I'm a lawyer, you can make claims that you can't substantiate. Unfortunately for us as lawyers, it's not enough to say somebody has done this and somebody has done that if you do not have proof. And more importantly, if you have not secured a conviction, or if the courts have not so said. That is our own weakness as lawyers. And so that when we listen to some of the things that have been said this evening, we take them with a grain of salt. And that is one of the dangers of emotive discussion. So I'm going to read to you something that was a statement made by Major General Effiong in 1969. And he says, as you know, fellow countrymen, blah, blah, blah. And then he says a lot of things. Then he goes on and he says, we took up arms because of the sense of insecurity generated in our people by the events of 1966. We have fought in defense of that cause. I am now convinced that a stop must be put to the bloodshed, which is going on as a result of the war. I am also convinced that the suffering of our people must be brought to an end. He then says, we have always believed that our differences with Nigeria should be settled by peaceful negotiation. And then Gowon says, let me find something that he says that will not irritate you. Okay, then he says, if I can find something, then he says, can I then say something? I've actually found something that was just to get you to relax. I shall pass on that. Okay, so can I just say thank you very much? Can I just say thank you very much? Thank you very much for attending this evening. Thank you for respecting the space we have generously given to you to discuss these questions. We're always happy here in SOAS to engage with these sorts of issues because we believe that part of being civilized, part of being educated, and part of being a democratic community is that freedom to air your views. They're your views. You're entitled to have your own views. You're entitled to be able to say what you think. But then you are also required to listen to what your opponent has to say. If you want people to respect and understand what it is you're saying, then you have to be willing to respect and understand their own view. You do not have to agree. And so thank you very, very much for coming to SOAS. We have drinks. for you to engage with. There's no alcohol, so nobody would beat themselves. We have the room until 10 o'clock. Please make sure you leave before then or latest at 10. Thank you very much.
Yeah, they should. They will. They will. They will. They will. Immediately by tomorrow. By tomorrow. So you don't have anything here today. I have now. Who is it? There's someone. Right, one second to try. Come here. Right, okay, Choma, tell us, right, you put out the message to IPOP about this event, okay, yeah. What did you want to do?
Just to encourage debate, so we can hear two sides of the story and for people to be educated about Biafra and know about Biafra, about their fight, and then also to have for us to know about Nigeria as well, see where they stand, what is the identity for young people. For myself, I didn't know much about Biafra because I grew up here, I was born here, so it's good to hear different stories, why people want Biafra, and also why people do not want Biafra as well.
And talking about those stories, you start to get very emotional.
Very emotional, yeah.
Right? But my goodness, the moderator herself, she was brilliant this evening. She brought us back from the brink, didn't she?
Yes, she did.
Okay. So, where do we go from here? What's next?
I think these debates are necessary, especially in an academic forum as well, because I don't think Biafra has been discussed in such a prestigious university as SOAS University of London. I think that's needed so people can not just think that the Biafra cause is one of the streets and process, but we can also debate intellectually as well. So that's why I wanted us to speak about Biafra here as well, but also to see two sides of the story as well, and then for you to have your own and make your own decision whether you will support Biafra.
Thank you very much for all the hard work that's been to this. Fantastic. Absolutely. One last thing. Where do we go from here next? What's next for you on this show, Biafra? Have you any plans whatsoever? Are you going to have to go back to your team and discuss?
I think we should have another discussion. I think another discussion is needed. I believe that a lot of people, a lot of answers, a lot of questions were not answered here. And I think it was too short of a time. So I believe that a follow-up is needed. Definitely.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Fantastic. Dude, well done.